Доброе утро, я приветствую всех на Гайдаровском
I'm happy to welcome you all to
форуме
Gaidar Forum 2021, Russia and the World After the Pandemic.
И я рада приветствовать
Additionally,
вас
the
всех на
forum
сессии «Чистый город».
opens the business agenda of the year, and I'm happy to see you at our session,
Денис Петрович
A
Butsayev,
Clean City Packaging as a Global Challenge. And I'm happy to introduce to you Denis Butsayev, General Director of Russian Environmental Operator Public Law Company, Alexander Krivolapov, Managing Director in Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Caucasus and Central Asia of Tetra, Sergey, Glushkov, Vice President on Corporate Affairs, PepsiCo, Eastern Europe. Good morning, I'm happy to see you here. And online with us is Valeria Korosteleva, co-founder of the project Sobirator and organizer of the environmental movement Separate Collection.
Онлайн-связи с нами, Валерия, у вас нет звука.
Звук включен. Сейчас. Вот
Сейчас мы услышим Валерию. Да, доброе утро.
Valeria, good morning.
Ну что ж, большое спасибо организаторам форума, разделяющим...
I would like to thank the organizers who share our concern on preserving the nature and having Russian cities more comfortable and cleaner. On behalf of Renepo and PepsiCo, we are happy to thank our speakers for the time and the opportunity to come to the forum in person here today. And we can see that the organizers have taken unprecedented safety measures. A clean city topic is important to all.
Большую ответственность производителей в отношении технологии использования пластика, перерабатываемости упаковки, наличия инфраструктуры для правильной...
And it is important to have the infrastructure to manage waste. We need to have a sustainable system that would enable 100% waste recycle. We invited to our studio representatives of different groups of stakeholders and the government, the organization that is one of the global leaders in producing packaging, food and beverages packaging, and we hope that different perspectives will be very important to us all. And now I'm happy to give the floor to Denis Butsayev, General Director of
возможность рассказать о той работе, которую делает правительство.
Thank you, Irina, for this chance to share with you the work that the government does through our company and the goals set by the President and the government for the near future. As you have mentioned, up to 2030, the scope of waste for landfills should go down drastically. We're talking about 50% of recycle, and to that extent, we have to reach the best global standards. Currently, several countries in the world can reach these volumes. As for what else we should do, that is 100% recycling. I mean, everything that we have as waste today should be sorted, first of all, and therefore we need to maximally have the waste separated for recycling. If we have a look at the morphology of waste management that we have today, 30% is food waste, 20% is cardboard and paper, 11% is plastic, and then other fractions. And around 30% are those that cannot be recycled. All the rest can be. If we talk about plastic, I can say for sure that without losing consumer qualities, up to 7 times it can be recycled. And if we talk about aluminum and iron, it can be used again and again, recycled again and again, many times. And here we need to talk not only about infrastructure, but that is a multifaceted task that has to be settled in different directions. Everything is more or less clear with the infrastructure, and to date, on the order of the government, we have completed work on the federal scheme of waste management. That is a comprehensive document that has current waste management and disposal sites and promising ones to reach the figures of the federal project that you have just mentioned. Currently, we have around 1,800 sites that are in the waste management process and 1,200 promising sites. These are the sites that have to be built from scratch. As for 1,800 sites, they include those that have to be upgraded, but they are in existence today. Proceeding from the figures, we evaluate investment in pretty sizable volumes, and the budget funding will not be enough to settle this issue. We are counting on extra budget means as well, and that is one of the tasks of our company. And we also say that the sources of the industry financing can not include only the tariffs. And here we need to see how the system connected with the waste management works in the world. The second source should be the payment of those who pollute, who actually make this waste. And to this extent, up to a certain time, in the Russian Federation, the second source has been non-existent. And it is important because globally it is formed through different funds that allow to come up with the so-called long-term investment cycle that can exceed the investment cycle in other industries. And we say that waste management industry is very low margin, and therefore 12, 15, 17 years cycle are more or less real for this sector of economy. And therefore, without long-term stable investment conditions, regrettably, the development of the industry will be impossible. But that is not only about the infrastructure, that is also about a chance and need to change the attitude to waste, the attitude and behavior of citizens, those participants of the process through whom we have the volume of waste that we actually see now. What does it mean? It means that we need to think about separate waste collection, but apart from that, we have to think also about conscious limits on using packaging, and we need to switch to those packaging modes, those packaging types that can be used again and again. And most importantly, in that respect, we need to see waste as a certain raw material or as a commodity, we can say, that we can use afterwards in our life. Proceeding from these ideas, the government put forward a program connected with education and informing the citizens to show them what the reform is about, so that we can come up with a certain standard behavior that would enable us to breathe easier, to eliminate the factors of waste mixing to the extent when we cannot return them into recycling. And the third thing is different incentives to develop the industry that cannot use sticks only, but also carrots. And therefore, we need to think about rates of eco duties, and there should be incentives here. Regrettably, up to a certain time, it was really very voluntary. That is why it was not so stimulating, but it was unstimulating on the other hand. Therefore, on the order of the president, we started expanding the producer's responsibility, and Victoria Abramchenko was in charge of that. And in December the concept was adopted that incorporates changes that we are planning to have in effect in 2021 in terms of expanded producers and manufacturers' responsibility. And that is directly connected with the second source of the industry development and economic incentives that the industry can use to be able to resort to long-term vehicles and choose companies to mitigate the negative environmental influence and to mitigate waste. As far as I understand, that is our introductory remarks first, and then we will have a discussion. Yes, we will have a Q&A session as well. Well, then that is all that I wanted to say as introduction. Thank you very much. Thank you, Denis, for your remarks. And we truly see that Russia, on the one hand, is going to use the global experience, but on the other hand, the concept implies certain local innovations. Do you think it is wiser to fully abandon certain types of packaging on some environmental issues? And if so, what are they? You know, in my essence, I'm a liberal, I would say, strange as it might seem. Do you mean no? No, I mean that I cannot give just a clear answer to this, because it is easy to prohibit something, but this practice is not the most effective way of regulating. If we talk about prohibiting some types of packaging, we understand what types of packaging are hard to recycle and what cannot be recycled at all. And it means that they are very popular with the landfills. And therefore, they are not actually recycled. Nothing happens with them in nature. They do not decay. So how should we act with that? Well, it's hard to give just one answer. We need to think about economy, and we need to think about different types of packaging in economy. There is a plastic, for example, that has different types as well. Some can be recycled easily, others cannot. But we understand that in manufacturing plastic, we have a lot of jobs. And we also understand that we can incentivize some manufacturers to go away from hard to recycle plastic to those plastics that are easier to recycle. If, for example, we impose tariffs higher to those plastics that are hard to recycle, we will build an economic barrier, and it will mean that a company can take certain time to go for that other plastic that is easy to recycle, but it will not mean that we will close down some companies that will lose market just at once because we prohibit some use. This question was discussed many times, both in the Russian Federation and globally. And I can say that this practice, again, is not the same everywhere. Some countries opt for limiting the use. And they not always have positive consequences. But the government of the Russian Federation believes now that economic incentives is a better tool to regulate this market. Thank you very much. Packaging of consumer goods, though it has 5% of solid waste only, still is at the cutting edge, and that is why the changing concept of Russian Environmental Operator Public Law Company has it as the main goal. So 2020 has showed that packaging does not have only marketing and transport meaning, but also protective one, and we need to sort and recycle packaging correctly. The manufacturers of the packaging introduce different technological solutions that can enhance recycling, and they launch their own programs to collect and recycle waste. And now I'm happy to give the floor to Alexander Krivolapov, Managing Director in Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Caucasus and Central Asia of Tetra Pak. Alexander, can you share your deliverables, your developments with us, please. Yes, sure. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation and the chance to tell you what we are doing and how we see this issue in the long-term perspective. And we have a lot of cases from this country, yes, and I will be happy to share them with you. So I would say that the questions and topicality of environmental agenda has become so strong that it is impossible to oversee them. And the reason is clear, because if we have a big picture look, we understand that the population is growing, and if we add 1.5 billion people more in the near 20 years, we will need more products, therefore more packaging. Therefore, the issues will only aggravate if we do not take some clear measures now. Being one of the most visible players in the industry, we understand our responsibility and we treat it seriously. And sustainable development is one of the main elements of our long-term strategy, and packaging has here a key role. And we consider it from two perspectives. First of all, I would like to speak about the recyclability of the materials that we use, and the commodities, the raw materials that we use using packaging that allow to recycle them afterwards. And now, if we talk about cardboard packaging for products, we have pretty good positions at the start. Up to 70% of raw material can be recycled, but we need aluminum and plastic as well, because the main goal of packaging is to protect the products, the food, while we deliver them to the user. And the packaging can be user-friendly, but if it does not protect, the user will not use it. And there is a trend to increase the materials that are received from renewable sources. If we have timber, that is good, and another solution that we now offer, we can offer plastic that can be used from renewable sources, like, for example, sugar cane. And now we only have to replace aluminum foil to have other types of barriers, and that will be already excellent. We need to use paper, but adding some barrier qualities to preserve the value of the product, of the food that the manufacturer actually put into it. And we are planning to elaborate different materials on timber and use different barriers to protect the food. And the goal is to have everything that the company produces to have zero effect on the planet. Recycling is a little bit different to what we are now talking about. But still, for a long time, we have been dealing with developing infrastructure. We are not a company that is a recycling company, but still we have a lot of partners that we work with. And 3 or 4 years ago, Russia had no infrastructure on recycling cardboard paper packaging. And now we have 4 companies. The major one is in Lipetsk, and now it can recycle all packaging of that kind in Russia, though the volumes are not that large yet. And the ambitious goals that we are posing in the country, in Europe, for example, we have a 50% example, and we would like to reach 70%, and that would really take a lot of effort. And in Novgorod, in Tambov, there are other companies as well. So the main issue is not in infrastructure infrastructure, but in raw materials and waste collection. So any levels of initiatives that would enable to increase the volumes of waste collected would be great. And any initiatives I believe, would be really very useful. And we have a good project with PepsiCo, for example, in Lipetsk, where we have containers for separate waste collection.
We are launching a pilot project in Perm beyond the Urals. This year we're expecting a new range of projects joining us in St. Petersburg. This year we're expecting some news from St. Petersburg, from Voronezh, from Samara. So gradually we see more and more projects joining, whereas regional players doing the same. Everything is great, actually. The country is big. The area is huge. I'm pleased to say that with one of the Russian machine-building companies named Farmatech, we've managed to create an aluminum recycling factory to recycle cardboard package, which can be located in any part of our country. Such initiatives are very welcomed. The more we see, the closer we're going to be to the goals within our national projects. Thank you very much, Alexander Vladimirovich. Do you believe that it can be scaled up in terms of the recyclability and collection? In the current situation, we see the great desire for increase in capacity, so infrastructure is not an issue. We need to see more materials to recycle and to tap it back to the industry for next use. So the producers of the package do not step aside from the problems connected with the issues of contamination in cities. Today's package, glass or plastic bottle, Tetra pack, bag, is not garbage. It is a raw material, as we have mentioned already. This is the backbone of the economy. Empty plastic bottles can be recycled into new ones on a constant basis without any waste, actually. In this respect, we welcome the approach of PepsiCo company, which announced that they were going to build a world with the package to have zero waste impact globally. I'd like to ask Sergey Glushkov, who is Vice President of Corporate Affairs, PepsiCo Eastern Europe, dwell upon that. I give the floor to you. Please take the floor. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I would like to thank Gaidar Forum, which has become a conventional venue for experts bring together talking on different issues. As we see, the environmental issues are becoming one of the key issues of the Gaidar Forum, which at the very infant stage was dedicated to economic issues. It demonstrates that even regardless of those changes we can see right now, the issue of the environmental protection and package is one of the key components of this issue. Is becoming more and more important both for the society and the government, and for the expert community, which actually reflects all the issues in the society. For PepsiCo company, as you've right to mention, there is an informal motto which we try to turn into reality and adapt in our DNA of our consumers, partners, and partners. Our package shouldn't become a waste. For us, we see a very ambitious and clear goal. By 2025, there is little time to cover to ensure 100% of our package be recyclable, biodegradable, or decomposable. This is a global goal which we are striving for, and on this path we see the first results. Talking about the plastics, which we have covered already. In terms of plastics, we have a separate goal. We would like to see by 2025 35% less plastics in our package, and to achieve a goal by 2025 50% of all the used plastics in our package should be recyclable. I'd like to mention that we see considerable shifts on the Russian market. In our country, we started this project around a year and a half ago, the second half of 2019, and over several months we managed through experiments to achieve that. As Denis has already mentioned, we do lack capacity which can collect recyclable food plastic. Talking about global figures, right now around 2% of plastics used after processing. If we look at our planet from this space, that is the picture, then the rest of the plastics is not utilized. Talking about the recyclable plastics for food product package, so there are some sanitary requirements which are one of the strictest in our country on a global level. In order to be eligible for all the requirements in terms of security and safety for food product package, we do require a specialized manufacturing capacity, which we do lack in our country, not only our country, globally as well. So Russian package has 3% of plastics which can be recyclable. Over 2020, which was very harsh year due to the pandemic, we reached 10% of all the whole food plastic which can be recyclable. And it is not the endpoint of our movement, not only this category of the package, but for the multi-layer package, as Alexander has mentioned already, our project together with Tetra Pak and Lipetsk region, when we started to collect our juice and milk package in order to recycle this material in Lipetsk site, the main goal which was to recycle such a package. So it has 100 capacity to utilize the whole packages of milk and juice around our country. So it will allow us to clean those landfills around the cities out of this package, which has been collected for years. These are new projects. The joint project with Tetra Pak was started around 6 years ago when we moved into the first area, which I have mentioned, the whole paper and cardboard multi-layer package, which we buy from Tetra Pak, used out of pulp. And we were responsible timber users. This is the renewable use of timber in our country, which has become a very important issue due to some circumstances, both from the government and from the very responsible users. Talking about other projects and about our other partners, for example, together with X5 Retail Group, we launched several months ago the project Get Back the Package into the Play. We started to take Lay's chips package. So in order to turn it into the artificial cover for a football pitch in our cities for the children to use this recyclable package for their health. I'd like to mention that we've listed a number of concepts adopted by the government as a New Year's gift, actually. In respect to package, I would like to mention the expanded responsibility of producers, which was still the case in the concept. The projects which I have mentioned already, talking about Lipetsk Tetra Pak, we cannot incentivize our users, our clients, and ourselves to collect only PepsiCo package and our juices and different types of juice and milk. Only the products manufactured with Tetra Pak technology. So the concept component implying aggregating and collecting all the types of packages which can be recycled thanks to associations will allow as the saying goes, to fill these containers for separate waste collection and use maximally the effect on the emerging culture of a separate garbage collection and the recyclability of package, which will allow our country to achieve those figures, which can be seen in the most advanced technologies in those countries which maximally use resources on a constant basis. In Europe, they have a very ambitious goals for 10 dozens years to come. The most significant results which have been achieved in the Netherlands and in Germany, they have achieved about 30% of those package recyclable. So we have a long way to cover. And it can be achieved through those methods, which Denis has mentioned. This is the foundation which would allow the economic foundation to incentivize recycling of those fractions which do require that. For producers, we need to bring together to incentivize and to get the maximum economic effect for the recycling industry without waiting for subsidies and incentives from the start to mobilize their own capital to do that. This is the only possible way to go. In the adopted concept, there is a 100% shift to the requirements and the guidelines starting in 2022. It hasn't been achieved anywhere, so this figure is impossible to achieve, talking about 70%. So this kind of stick and carrot approach, and this is only the stick without any carrots. We have a new norm, new regulation, stating if the company wants to pay eco duty, it is double for the package. So in fact, the producers needs to pay 200% of what is going to be produced on the market. Nobody is going to comply with those regulations, particularly in such harsh conditions and harsh circumstances our economy faced. The concept has been adopted. It's a huge step forward, which would allow us to plan long-term perspective. But, you know, any document, any process is very dynamic. And I'm sure that in the process of the dialogue with the state and the special foundations, package producers, packaged good producers, and the consumer society, we will find that optimal mechanism in our country, which would use best practices and allow us to demonstrate to the whole world that we can do something faster and better. Thank you very much, Sergey. Can collection and recycling of package be getting even, as glasses and cardboard can be recycled very successfully, the infrastructure in place? Yes, this is a question to those regulations and guidelines set by the government. We do remember our great childhood when the whole country collected paper, getting beautiful books, or collected metal things, as aluminum has always been the strategic material for our country. So the percentage of recyclable aluminum is one of the highest globally. Denis might correct me, but we are among top 3 in global list of aluminium which is recycled. So the capacity is in place. It is, thanks to the God, improving, and it has been developing over the last decade. So it is getting even, and so we need to follow the same path when the infrastructure is in place. So getting back to plastics, so the tariffs and duties shouldn't be equal to those in other industries. According to the federal law, in waste management, there is a strict provision that the capital should be used for the intended purposes. So the eco duties which has been collected for aluminium or glass cannot be used for the plastic collection, which actually should be doubled duty. So the task which we have in front of us is very complicated, but in general, the document which has been adopted is a very is a very great gift, as the whole industry has a clear sign what the direction we're going to move into. Sergey, thank you very much. It's absolutely clear that the government's and business efforts in responsible waste management should be supported by the citizens themselves. In logistics, the major point is last mile, talking about the clean city. Everything started in our kitchen when we make a decision to sort garbage and maybe even prepare for disposal approach, which is quite exotic for our country. This is a very important thing to start with, to start from yourself. We need to have very active ambassadors of responsible waste management and separate garbage collection. As Sergey has mentioned, even the employees of these companies were to be informed of that, not only the basic principles of separate garbage collection, but how the fractures should be divided. That's true. You know, our production sites amounting to 30. In every office, in every branch representative office, we have a separate garbage collection of our manufacturing sites in Russia. Using recyclable materials, trying to achieve zero waste impact on the ecosystem. Talking about the cardboard, we have 100% recyclable cardboard, and being the biggest producer of and company using potato, we have shared the best practices with our potato producers in our sites for all the potato waste on our sites. We're starting to use it as a mineral fertilizers. We're reducing the logistics leverage in order to reduce the carbon footprint. And we allow our partners and ourselves to make our planet cleaner, to maximum use those renewable resources which we are surrounded by. So you in PepsiCo start with yourselves, we start with our producers, our vendors. Together with them, we are building a new approach, a cyclical economy. We have one speaker. We have one more speaker. I know, I've known Sergey for a long time. We've been working on many issues. We've been debating on many issues. I'd like to comment on some points he has mentioned. Let's do that right now. I do believe that it's not but coincidence that we have such a group of people at our discussion, as PepsiCo is one of the biggest producers of packaged goods. But along with that, PepsiCo is one of the major global innovators how to use the package, how to recycle the package and use recyclable package. And Tetra Pak, in its essence, is a very innovative company. The package, which is considered Tetra Pak, is a very complicated technological solution in terms of package, and it is very difficult to recycle. What Alexander has said, it is a huge step forward as to recycle Tetra Pak. It's not that simple compared with cardboard recycling. You need to have a specialized production venue. It is a single one in Lipetsk in one, so it can just recycle the whole Tetra Pak. We cannot bring everything to Lipetsk, because that's what Sergey has mentioned. There are some logistics issues. There are some problems connected with the collection of these fractions, and in this respect, the foundation of the expanded responsibility of consumers and producers should help. Talking about the bigger amount of package, so we are wrong at numbers. Actually, we're talking not about 5%, but we're talking about 50%. This 50% of 61 million tons collected, so 30 million tons of waste is only package, and the number is ever increasing. So what is the reason for that? Globally, it is believed that the package had the function of marketing. And this marketing function, and this is my personal conclusion, is a constant stimulus to fine-tune the package. So for the environmental purpose, the package should be improved in terms of simplifications and eco-friendliness, but unfortunately, for marketing purposes, it has become a constant drive for sophistication. We do have children. We see how the toys are packed. This is the product where marketing is like 80% of the component of the toy. This is the small toy in a huge, big package. And over you don't need to take this baggage. You don't need to take this package home. You want to leave it in a store. This is the constant clash of marketing and environmental interests,
which actually stands in the way of solving the problem of environmental nature of packaging for the sake of its safety. Therefore, when we are talking about the effort taken by the players, they are extremely important because that is actually initiative programs, and companies spend money that they do not have to spend. But in terms of solving the problem, that does not solve the problem at all. And that is regrettably the fact that we have as is, though that naturally the respect that myself and my colleague and the government has to PepsiCo and Tetra Pak is existing. But we send 18 million tons out of 60 to sorting, and 2.7 million tons goes to recycling only. Therefore, the vehicles that are implied by the market are not working. That's why if you pay an environmental duty, you pay it only at the rate, and the norm there is excessive, truly, but it means that what you give goes to either the recycling or to the landfill. But now we do not have landfills, we have dumps only. And we understand perfectly well that in this country, or actually in any country, it is not possible to come up with a plant next to each city. Therefore, the money raised by the Extended Producer Responsibility Fund, so to say, should go to manage waste wisely, because now we understand that, for example, take your faction from Novosibirsk to Lipetsk, it will cost really a fortune. Therefore, we need the correct source. And I am saying that without any sarcasm. I'm saying it sincerely that I am thankful to my colleagues for their part in extended producer responsibility. A lot of organizations cooperate with Sobirator project, and Valeria Korosteleva is here with us, connected to us online. Do you hear us? Yes, I do. So, Valeria, how do you think the idea of separate waste collection and responsible waste management should be promoted in people? Well, I believe that we need to resort to three main principles. First of all, preventing, then using them again and again, and separate waste. And every time when the government or some companies or public organizations or municipal authorities do something, we need to proceed from these 3R concepts: reduce, reuse, recycle. And we need to educate people, to inform them, not only the citizens, but all players in the market. And like it has been said now, PepsiCo also informs their team, and I can prove that because they resort to us and they share their experience not only with us as experts but with the whole industry. And it's great to inform each other, to gather best practices that all the participants of our discussion have now mentioned, to use them maximally fast. Because if someone is doing something great and then it cannot be scaled to the market because they do not share the information, then it doesn't make sense. It will be just one-way street. And we are now playing for the planet. We are now talking about the environmental conditions of our planet. And therefore, we are interested in knowledge sharing and in capacity building to preserve our planet and our presence in this planet. Apart from creating the culture of responsible consumption, we also need to think about infrastructure. And like previous speakers have said, we have recycling sites, and we also have sorting and processing sites developing as well, but we practically do not have the collection infrastructure. That is the big issue, like you have mentioned, because people just do not have a location where they can take packaging for sorting and recycling. And it should not be a container that is dirty, that you wouldn't like to use even to put your clean bottles and cans and cardboard. But it should be something different. It should take the experience of previous years. It should take into consideration our mindset, our climate, our logistics. This infrastructure has to be created really wisely, and it should be effective. And the third moment that also has been mentioned, that is economic incentives to people. If we talked about extended producer responsibility through environmental duties to producers, right? We also need to think about incentivizing people, like to have tariffs, one tariffs to those who are already collecting waste separately and different tariffs to others. Because if those who do it already would have a chance to save on separate waste collection, that would be a really great internal motivation. It will self-organize their activity. So there should be a flow from the government and producers, and it will receive the flow from the consumers, the citizens that have joined in this culture, that they would be happy to come up with a separate waste collection themselves and sending that to the sites, sorting sites. So first of all, informing, then infrastructure, and third, economic incentives, to put it short. Because we need, of course, to think about those who need motivation, external motivation. And in conclusion, I would also like to comment on what Denis Petrovich has said when he voiced that marketing goes in another direction as compared to the environmental component of our production and resource use. And I totally agree with the toys and packaging for toys. What is important here is to see that environmental friendliness is becoming a new advantage. And if you make your packaging environmentally friendly without extra color and other stuff, you will write that this packaging is a minimum in environmental footprint and so on and so forth. It becomes a new competitive edge, and you actually contribute to creating this infrastructure, this culture, and you support the environmental agenda. Therefore, you do not go against resource consumption, but support it. Therefore, I believe, again, that we need to share our experience, our knowledge more, and we need to resort to public organizations more, because they are actually at the meeting point of all the participants, of all the players in the market. And we have done a lot of projects with Tetra Pak, and we communicate with federal, municipal, and regional authorities. And naturally, we are those who communicate more with the citizens. We understand their needs. We understand what they lack in to make the first step. So if we communicate all, we would reach the results faster. Sergey, do you have a comment? Yes, I would like to give you an example of responsible marketing. We all remember then when in early 1990s there was a bin sign on paper. It was something totally new, but now that is already a common practice. But still, a lot of companies are irresponsible towards the environment. And we have launched an experiment that had an aim to meet the needs of our main audience, that is young people. And young people treat the environment responsibly. Together with Yandex Maps, we launched a project. We put a QR code on the packaging of our bottles together with Yandex, and if you scan it with your smartphone, you will see the nearest point to where you are now, where you can dispose of the bottle. And you know, we received such a great response from our consumers, first of all, that we understood that it was so great to be a trendsetter of something new, useful, and it could combine very well with our marketing. And it received really great response in our consumers. And I am sure that there can be much more examples of this kind. And I totally agree that the sooner the people get economic incentives to collect waste separately and correctly at home, the better. And the sooner we would be able to unpack your toy in the store or to drink your bottle and dispose of it right away, the better. And we understand that even elderly ladies are now using smartphones, so they would be able to scan QR codes. PepsiCo truly has a creative approach to that. We are trying to do our best. Valeria, thank you very much for your contribution, and I would like to thank you and all other non-profit organizations that have taken upon this hard work to change the mindset of dozens of thousands of our citizens to come up with this more comfortable and user-friendly and environmental-friendly infrastructure. Regrettably, our time is running up, and now I would like to give our speakers just a couple of minutes to draw the conclusion of our session and answer the question, what needs doing in 2021 to make our cities cleaner? Denis, I'm not sure that I will say about cleaner cities right away, but I believe to move in the correct direction, we definitely need to communicate with each other. And today I was really positively surprised with the attitude that our colleagues have shown to regulations and projects that are physically being performed. And therefore, I would like to put forward an idea to communicate and cooperate really closer, both on the topic of behavioral and informing programs and programs connected with regulations and rules and laws, and naturally with programs on specific projects. And on our side, I would like to say that we are ready for that. Thank you very much, Denis Petrovich. Alexander Vladimirovich, a couple of words from you. I will support that we need to communicate more, interact more, because that results in specific actions. And another thing I would like to mention, large changes start with very small steps, personal steps, first of all. That's why I would like to call on all the listeners to this broadcast to start with yourselves, with your near and dear, and that will help. Sergey Mikhailovich, a couple of words from your side. Clean city is a part of a clean planet. Therefore, I would join in and I would like to call upon everyone to put your personal goals and your personal motto that would enable us all to make the planet cleaner. Valeria, if you're with us, can you sum up our meeting in a couple of words and say what we need to do in 2021 to make our world and our planet cleaner? You see, we have a new great concept of extended producer responsibility put forward, but what is supported there is infrastructure component. And as for informing and behavioral component, it is not supported by anyone yet. And therefore, it is taken by non-profit organizations. Therefore, for more effective activity, I suggest that you join in and support us in our informative projects that we are planning to continue together with PepsiCo in the oncoming year. And we need to scale them up for the country, because we have great information resource, but it has to reach everyone. And this QR code has to have maximally wide information at every packaging. Thank you very much, Valeria. And in conclusion, I would like to thank all the participants of our discussion today. This 45 minutes is truly not enough to discuss all the aspects of this extremely important topic, to touch upon all the difficulties. So let's deem it the first step only, an invitation for further cooperation and discussion. And we need to remember that everything depends on us, and the cleanliness of our city depends on us as well, of our city and of our planet. Thank you very much. Thank you for finding this time and opportunity to join in the discussion today. And I would like to thank all the listeners.